So the president announced just a short time ago that he's giving the intelligence community, the IC, 90 days to study this and report back to him. Without any measure of transparency from China, though, do they have any hope of succeeding?
Not really. I think the only reason that Biden's doing this is becoming untenable not to look into whether or not the virus originated in a Chinese lab. We need to find out what happened so it never happens again. If the source of COVID-19 that turned the world upside down is from a lab in China, we need to hold China accountable for allowing that to happen. So Biden seems to be more intimidated by our enemies than President Trump. So having the intelligence community look at this is not going to be successful until the world rallies around the idea that China needs to be more cooperative. And the only way the world will rally around the idea of pushing back against China is for the United States to lead. So I'm looking for President Biden to issue a challenge to the world to come together and insist that we have an open and transparent investigation in China.
Senator, top of the hour, I was speaking to Mark Meadows, who was obviously chief of staff to President Trump when the investigation was launched that we are now learning was brought to an end under the Biden administration. I aired for him the exchange with Senator John Kennedy and Dr. Fauci on the gain of function research and the trust that Dr. Fauci had that was not happening with the money that we gave them. You had an exchange with Dr. Fauci at that same hearing on the evidence of natural transmission. I want to get you to expand on this, but here's the exchange first.
Have we found any animals that carry COVID-19 that could have been the source of the transmission to humans thus far?
Thus far, not.
At what point in time would it become more likely it came from the lab if we don't find an intermediate animal host? How much longer?
I don't think we can give a time element on that.
Okay, so now the Biden administration says 90 days. They've asked the intelligence community to respond, whether this came from human contact with an infected animal or from a laboratory incident. They even in this latest statement, Senator, I'm sure you've had a chance to read it,
yes,
say the U.S. intelligence communities coalesced around two likely scenarios. So now the Biden administration is redoubling its efforts. They're saying, okay, 90 days, new investigation. But tell us what you were trying to get to the bottom of in that exchange there.
You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. If the first cases of COVID-19 occurred in November with lab workers, doesn't that make it more likely than not that the source of the virus was in the lab, not a wet market? So I think it's becoming increasingly clear. We haven't found an animal yet that is a good host for the virus. If the first cases involve lab workers in Wuhan, it's most likely they got it in the lab. So how can the Congress help President Biden? We should put together a sanctions regime against China, put in place sanctions until they fully cooperate with the international community to find out the source of the virus. I don't think without sanctions, without international pressure, they're ever going to help. So you can look at this till you turn blue in the face. The only way China's going to respond is when the world makes them respond. So sanctions led by the United States, embraced by the world, I think would get us to where we need to go. And I intend to introduce those sanctions relatively soon.